Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I will call into open session this meeting of the Arlington Independent School District Board of Trustees for June 23rd, beginning at 7:01. I want to thank everyone for coming out to be with us this evening. We'll start our meeting with the opening ceremony. Would you please join Mr. Michael Hill in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. Now, if everyone would please silence their cell phones and electronic devices to avoid disruptions to those around you, we would appreciate that. And if you would join me in a moment of silence, and on this evening, if you would join me and reflect on the lives of Miss Grace Atherton and Mr. Larry Shaw. Thank you. Now, the first item on our agenda this evening is a special introduction of our incoming Student Leadership Advisory Board. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins, and we have the leadership group here that's paired up with the school board, and Michelle Wilmasanato will provide an overview of that and introduce our students.
Thank you, everyone. This is our kickoff meeting of the new Student Leadership Advisory Board. And the board, this Student Leadership Advisory Board, as you know, exists to give the Board of Trustees input on student opinions on various issues and things across our district. They participate on certain committees, and they also invite their board members that are paired with them to go to school with them, and that's always a highlight. This group is made up of the junior class presidents of the 6 traditional high schools, and this year we are pleased to welcome to our group also the junior class president for Arlington Collegiate. So we have 7 SLAB members. They are led by a president that's elected from the group before. And so it is now my great pleasure to introduce the president, who will then in turn have each member come up and introduce himself or herself. So Jacqueline Garcia, who is SLAB president for 16-17. Becky. She goes to Lamar High School.
Good evening. I'm Jacqueline Garcia. I go to Lamar High School, and I am thrilled to be working with Jamie Solons this year as SLAB president, and also to be working with 2016-17 SLAB members. So yeah, I think we should get to know them and who they're partnered with. So let's get started. Why don't you come up? Thank you.
I'm Hanino Sharif. I go to Lamar High School, and I'm the junior class president, and I'm partnered with Mr. Bowie Hug.
Yeah!
Hello, everyone. My name is Noelle Vargas. I am here representing James Bowie High School, and I'm working with Miss Jamie Solons.
Hi, my name's Taryn Cates, and I'm the junior class president of Arlington High School, and I'm working with John Hibbs.
Hello, my name's Emily Yanes, and I'm here representing Arlington Collegiate High School, and I am partnered with Miss Polly Walton.
Hi, my name's Brianna Syed. I'm representing Seguin High School, and I'm partnered with Miss Kristen Hudson.
Hello, my name is Nick Height. I'm the junior class president of Martin High School, and I'm with the best Dr. Aaron D. Rush, the vice president of the board.
Hello, I'm Deja Barner. I'm representing Sam Houston High School, and I'm lucky to be partnered with Miss Kesia Mays.
We want to thank you for coming out this evening. We're excited to get to work with you. This is the first year we've had 7 students, and so we are very pleased. We know that it was a huge imposition to have school get out and then ask them to come to another board meeting. So they get a round of applause just for that. Thank you very much. And so if you would bear with me, I think that I would like to move straight into the appointments, and we'll come back to our program presentation on the community and student engagement momentarily, but I think we would go straight to appointments. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins, and I'd like to recommend that the board ratify the assistant principal for Bowie High School, assistant principal for Lamar High School, assistant principal for Sam Houston High School, assistant principal for Seguin, assistant principal for Atherton Elementary, assistant principal for Hale Elementary, and assistant principal for Swift Elementary, and appoint the individual discussed in closed session for principal of the Career Tech Center.
I move that we accept the administrative appointments.
What he said.
Mr. Hibbs, someone beat you to the motion out there, so.
I'll second.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion by Mr. Hibbs, and a second by Dr. Reich. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins, and it's my pleasure to present the new principal for our Career Tech Center, Ms. Ginger Polster. Ginger attended Tarleton State University to receive her Bachelor of Science in Ag Science and Developmental Education, and Tarleton State University for her Master of Science in Agricultural Education. Most recently, our Career Technical Education Coordinator has been a specialist with the Career Tech Department, has been an assistant principal at Hill Elementary, an Ag Science teacher at Arlington High School, and an Ag Science teacher at Lake Worth High School. Ginger, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say?
Yes, thank you. Dear President Sullins, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, I'd like to share just a few things about you and take you on a little journey this evening. I'm a product of career and technical education. Although I attended a high school in a small community with only 34 students in my graduating class, it was the experiences and opportunities I had in my CTE courses in student leadership organizations, combined with the support and work ethic my parents instilled in me, that provided the foundation for my future and successes. I received an Ag Science scholarship that allowed me to attend college and pursue a bachelor's and master's degree in education. In 1997, Mr. James Adams, principal of Arlington High School, hired me to serve as an Ag Science teacher. For 10 years, he provided me with guidance, leadership, mentorship, and opportunities for professional growth. It was an honor and a privilege to serve our AISD students as a classroom teacher. In 2007, Mrs. Mary Lee Ross, principal of J.L. Hill Elementary, hired me to serve as an elementary principal. At the time, the only elementary experience I had was as a parent of a second grader. So let's just say there was a rather large learning curve to transition from high school to elementary. However, Mary Lee provided support, guidance, and friendship to help me succeed. Not many educators have the opportunity to have experiences that allow them to see the entire educational perspectives from K through 12. It was an honor and a privilege to serve our AISD students as an assistant principal. In 2010, I had the opportunity to return to my CTE roots when Craig Wright, CTE director, hired me to serve as a CTE specialist and coordinator. In these roles, I have had the opportunity to develop and implement new opportunities and unique learning experience for students to help them to be college and career ready. The AISD Fire Academy is one example. Many said that it cannot be done and that high school students were not ready or capable of completing the rigor of the course, the skills to graduate with their Texas Commission on Fire Protection and their EMT certification. As we all know, we proved them wrong. At that time, little did I know that this program would blaze the trail for many more programs and opportunities for students. In May of 2014, with the passing of the AISD bond, the vision was set to build a career center that would allow for the development and expansion of new CTE programs and to create new opportunities for the students of AISD to graduate exceptionally prepared for college, career, and citizenship. I've been involved in every facet of the CTE Center since the inception of the vision for a district-wide CTE facility. It is an honor and privilege to be selected to carry that vision forward as the principal of the Arlington ISD Career and Technical Education Center. As the principal of the Career Center, I am dedicated to creating a school-wide culture where students identify, select, and pursue career pathways and develop necessary skills that lead to post-secondary careers and college readiness. I am committed to cultivating the potential in our students by integrating rigorous classroom instruction with relevant work-based experiences that inspire, guide, and empower them for post-secondary college and careers. The CTE Center will develop relationships with businesses, industry, and community leaders who provide guidance and support to maintain rigorous coursework that is meaningful and responds to the needs of our community. Our CTE Center will bridge the gap for academics, employability, and technical skills that prepare our students for leadership roles in the working world. By combining careful planning with real-world experiences, students will be prepared to take the next step in life after graduating Arlington ISD. Our students will excel. Through this journey, I would not be here today without the love and support of my family and friends. At this time, I'd like to introduce my husband, Trey Polster, who has taught ag science for 33 years in Arlington. He is my biggest cheerleader and supporter. Next, I have my daughter, Cheyenne Polster. She's a junior at Arlington High School who would like to pursue a career as a surgical nurse. I have a stepdaughter who is actually on her way. She graduated from Texas A&M University with a degree in communications, and she's actually pursuing a career in aviation, and she was flying tonight with, she has her certified flight instructor's license, so she's flying other people tonight. I have a stepson, Garrett, who graduated from Texas State Technical College in Waco. And he's actually working the evening shift as a diesel mechanic at FedEx. And he received his associate's degree in diesel mechanics. All right. And last but not least are my parents, Willie and Wilma Cantwell. They are responsible for the person I am today. I grew up on a working farm and ranch, and they instilled in me that nothing can replace hard work and dedication. And you do what you have to do to get the job done. I also want to say a special thanks to my CTE family and friends for their support as well. President Salins, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, thank you again for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to continuing to serve the students of Arlington ISD, the parents, the district, and the entire community as the principal of AISD's Career and Technical Education Center. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Principal for Bowie High School, Ms. Natasha Fowler. Natasha attended Prairie View A&M University to receive her Bachelor of Science in Computer Science, Dallas Baptist University for her Master of Education in Ed Leadership. Most recently, a Dean of Students in Houston ISD, has been a Dean of Instruction in Fort Worth ISD, a mathematics teacher and a coach at Duncanville, a math teacher in Dallas, and also a math teacher in Garland previously. Natasha, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. President Sullins, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, and Mr. Manley, thank you so much for this opportunity to serve the students of Arlington ISD. With me today, supporting me today, is my family, my mom, my brother, my sister, my cousins, friends, and former students that have become my family. I come from a long line of remarkable educators, and I am deeply honored to continue the legacy of helping students achieve their potential and empowering teachers to become leaders within and beyond their classrooms. I'm ready to cross the line to ensure the success of Bowie High School. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope that you can sense my excitement.
Next, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Principal for Lamar High School, Mr. Howard Gatewood. Howard attended Columbia College to obtain his Bachelor of Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies, Concordia University to obtain his Master of Education in Ed Administration. Most recently, an Assistant Principal in Red Oak ISD, has been a Special Ed teacher in Red Oak, a Special Ed teacher in Corsicana, has been Behavior Intervention teacher in Dallas ISD, and has served in the United States Marine Corps. Howard, congratulations. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. President Sullins, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, Mrs. Wilma Sonato, Mr. Hagman, and the staff of Arlington Lamar High School, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to serve Arlington ISD. I would also like to thank my beautiful wife, Desiree, of 27 years. And I also have with me my daughter, Brooke. She's also an educator in Dallas ISD, a middle school science teacher. I want to give you my word that I will be a relentless servant of Arlington ISD. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Next, the new assistant principal of Sam Houston High School, Ms. Lizette Gonzalez. Lizette attended Southern Methodist University to receive her Bachelor of Arts in Spanish and Latin American Studies, UNT for her Master of Education in Ed Administration. Most recently, the assistant principal at Carter Junior High School, has been an assistant principal at Berry Elementary, fourth grade bilingual teacher at Berry, has also been an instructional coach and family liaison, a third grade bilingual teacher, a fifth grade bilingual teacher, and a fourth grade bilingual teacher. Lizette, congratulations.
Thank you. President Sullins, esteemed members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Cavazos, Ms. Wilma Senado, Mr. Benavides, thank you so much for allowing me the wonderful opportunity to serve the students here of AISD. I'm honored to be appointed as the new assistant principal of Sam Houston High School. I thank you for your belief and trust in my abilities to lead. I'm very excited to work alongside Sam Houston High School Principal Mr. Benavides and Associate Principal Ms. McClendon. It's obvious that they're very outstanding leaders, and I look forward to learning from them both. I'm also excited to work alongside the administrative team, whom I've already had the chance to meet with, and I commit to being a part of the administrative team and staff of Sam Houston High School to help build a nurturing, safe, and professional environment that supports the educational success of all students and welcomes parents, community members, and all stakeholders to work together as a team in pursuing the ultimate goal of preparing them for graduating, career, and college ready. So I'm eager to begin this new journey, and I'd like to mention some of those that have had the generosity to invest in me and support me along the way. Area superintendents, thank you for your leadership. Ms. Wilma Senado, thank you for your genuine kindness and guiding hand as I transitioned into secondary. You are a role model to follow. Ms. Cardenas Aguinaga for bringing me on board 5 years ago and opening my doors to new learning. Mr. Larry Beaver and his family for helping me grow as a leader and for praying alongside my family throughout the challenges we faced. To the faculty and staff at Berry Elementary and Carter Junior High, thank you for believing in me as a leader and for always being honest with your feedback. Your patience has helped me grow as a leader and also learn. You all are some of the hardest and most dedicated educators I have ever met. To my current principal, Mr. Rennie Lazardo, and the APs, Ms. Montgomery and Mr. Howard, it has been a fun, wild, and amazing ride this past year. I've never learned so much from a group of leaders in just 9 months, the way I have from them. Thank you for taking me under your wing and teaching me the ropes of secondary education. I'll miss seeing all of you for our daily roller coaster ride. # Carter Cougar for life. And finally, thank you to those who are here tonight from Sam Houston. And those have sent me email messages. Thank you for making me feel welcome and supporting me, and I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you. As I close out with remarks, I'd like to thank my friends and family watching online, and I thank you for your continued support and cheering me on. I'd also like to introduce my family who's here with me tonight. Very first time I walked up to this podium was 4 years ago, and my eldest son, Moses, was only 3 years old, and now he's 7. Praise God. He's right here. Miguel was only 1, now he's 5, and we've also added a new addition who apparently wants to be a future member of the board. Misael, he's 1. And my beautiful daughter, my beautiful stepdaughter, she's here today. She wasn't able to make it to the previous board meetings, and I'm so excited that she's here today. I've had the privilege of raising her since she was 3. And she's joining us today. Like I said, she's actually a member or a student at Arlington High, so we're going to have a little friendly competition going on at home. And my husband is super dad back there who's handling all the babies while I work. You may recall him from the first time we were here. He kind of hooped and hollered. So my boys and my princess, I wouldn't be able to do this without you. I love you so much, and thank you for understanding and supporting me, and I just couldn't balance life without them. So again, President Sullins, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos, thank you again. I can't wait to see what's in store at Sam Houston next year. And # Sam Pride, Sam Side.
Next, I'd like to introduce the assistant principal for Seguin High School, Mr. Darwin Brown. Darwin attended Texas Tech University in Lubbock to obtain his Bachelor of Science in Exercise Sports Science, Texas A&M University Commerce for his Master of Education in Ed Administration. Most recently, a physical ed teacher and a coach at Duncanville ISD, has been a physical ed teacher and defensive coordinator in Dallas ISD, and has played in the National Football League for the Denver Broncos and the San Francisco 49ers. Darwin, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. To President Sullins, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful district. I look forward to helping this district, striving to be a premier district and a leader in education. To my family, my wife, my wonderful wife, Kathleen Brown, who this is her second night at a board meeting because she's an assistant superintendent in Duncanville. So she's here tonight supporting me, my two daughters, Kennedy and Kirsten Brown. They keep me going, and they always support me. To my parents who chose to go to Vacation Bible School tonight. I'm not, hey, I can't, you're right. I said, that's okay. Betty, it's okay. Pray for me. So thank you, Mom and Dad. When you see it on YouTube, thank you for always instilling God in me. Okay? And finally, I just want to thank my administrative staff at Seguin High School. I don't know what they saw in me, but whatever they saw in me, I'm grateful, and I plan to step into that position, do my job, and I just thank those guys because even now they do whatever they can to help me. Also, and it's funny because every time I tell someone I'm a part of Seguin administrative staff, they just say, with Samuel Nix? Oh my God, oh my goodness, you're lucky, he's the greatest. So to Mr. Nix, he is living up to the hype. He helps me, always in contact with me. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm just glad that he chose me to be a part of the best of the best. Thank you.
Next, the new assistant principal for Atherton Elementary, Ms. Bianca Goldston. Bianca attended University of Texas at Arlington for her Bachelor of Arts in Criminology and Criminal Justice, Louisiana College for her Master of Arts in Teaching. Most recently, a 4th and 2nd grade teacher in Mansfield ISD, has taught in the Metro Academy, 2nd and 3rd grade, and has been a program manager for the Boys and Girls Club in Arlington. Bianca, congratulations and welcome.
Good evening. President Sullins, Dr. Cavazos, esteemed board members, and Principal Sarvar, I would like to thank you all for the opportunity to serve as the Arlington Atherton Elementary School Assistant Principal. As an educator for 10 years, I have always focused on building relationships with students, parents, staff, and community members, providing exceptional instruction to meet the needs of all students, being fair and consistent with discipline, and making the school environment a fun and exciting place to work, learn, and grow, which I will continue in my new role. Tonight I have with me my amazing husband, Gerard Golston, who has helped me in countless ways, from studying to stuffing goodie bags and preparing for interviews, and is one of the reasons I'm here today. I also have with me other key members of my amazing support team. I have my brother, Michael Wilson, my best friend, Demetria Favors, and my good buddy, Dwayne White. They all have supported, motivated, and assisted and encouraged me along this journey. I thank you all for helping me accomplish this goal. My parents, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, they live about 3 hours away, so they didn't make that drive. But my parents have prayed, encouraged, supported, motivated, and been outstanding role models and instilled values of hard work, dedication, and perseverance. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And last but not least, thank you, Principal Sarvar, for the opportunity to be your teammate and assisting you in making Atherton the best elementary school in Texas. I'm overjoyed to be a part of the Arlington ISD family.
Next, the new assistant principal for Hale Elementary School, Ms. Natasha Harris. Natasha attended Baylor University to obtain her Bachelor of Arts in Speech, Lamar University to receive her Master of Education in Ed Leadership. Most recently, 4th and 5th grade teacher at Thornton Elementary School, has taught 3rd grade in the past, in Cedar Hill and the charter school. And Natasha, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you so much. Good evening. President Sullins, esteemed members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Cavazos, Dr. Harbrick, Ms. Morales, thank you so much for the honor and privilege to serve as the assistant principal of Lynn Hale Elementary. First, I'd like to thank God for his many blessings and providing me with this opportunity to serve in Arlington ISD as an educational leader. I would like to thank my husband, D'Artagnan, who is at home with our 4-month-old son, Noah, for his continued love and support in everything that I do and wish to achieve in life. He is my rock. I would also like to thank and recognize my family members who are present tonight, my mother-in-law, Cheryl Harris, my son, 9-year-old Warren, he was at Little Elementary, Taylor, who is almost 2, my sister Rachel and Enid, and my mother might be here somewhere, but I would like to thank you all for supporting me in everything that I do. There's someone that I also would like to recognize, and that is Alicia Rodriguez, principal of Thornton Elementary. 3 years ago, I joined the AISD family and Thornton, where immediately she recognized my leadership potential. As a result, she began to nurture that leadership skill and my growth by placing me in leadership roles, supporting me throughout my master's degree, all while having 2 babies at the same time, and providing constant encouragement throughout the entire process. Thank you, Alicia, she's watching online, for being a role model principal. Now, to my amazing Hale Hurricane family, I am excited, can't y'all tell? And ready for school to start already. I look forward to, yes, I know, right? No, they're not, no. All right, hey, you know, I'm ready. T-test training all day, yes. Okay, I look forward to meeting each and every one of you, building relationships, and supporting Ms. Morales in serving and promoting a growth mindset in each and every one of you. I stand before every member present tonight, ready, able, and willing to serve the students, parents, and the community of Lynn Hale Elementary. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it." So I embark on this journey that I will do just that, to help our students achieve high academic expectations, become responsible, productive citizens of society, and realize their potential by working hard to achieve their dreams and be all that they can be. I will do this for every child, every day, whatever it takes. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the assistant principal for Swift Elementary School, Mr. Brian Gomez. Brian attended Dallas Baptist University to receive his Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education, Dallas Baptist University for his Master of Education for Ed Leadership. Most recently, an assistant principal in Irving ISD, has been an ESL teacher in Mansfield ISD, a 4th grade teacher in Mansfield, and a 3rd grade teacher in Duncanville. Brian, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to put this on. I was expecting flowers, but this will be. It's okay. It's okay. President Sullins, members of the school board, and Dr. Cavazos, I'm honored to serve our student, staff, and community of Arlington. Since a very young age, I knew that God has called me to work with children, and I'm so thankful for the opportunity that He has given me. I pride myself in building strong and meaningful relationships and look forward to continuing this at Swift. I know that this year is going to be full of great things, and I'm very excited to get started working with Mrs. Allison and our wonderful staff. Thank you so much for showing up and supporting me. I'd also like to thank everyone who has played such an important part of my growth as an educator and an administrator. Thank you again for the opportunity. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. As is our custom, we ask that the appointees follow Mr. Kale to the lobby for a receiving line so each of us may meet you and welcome you. If the audience would please let the board go first, we'd appreciate that, and we will take a brief break to come back to finish our agenda this evening. Thank you. Thank you, and we will now go to the agenda item of Community and Student Engagement Self-Evaluation Report. Dr. Cavazos?
Thank you, President Sullins, and this is part of the evaluation that we do. We've done a couple of years now, and this is an addition to state law that allows districts to pick some measures and evaluate themselves on star-tested areas and things like that. So Dr. Barlow is presenting this tonight. Dr. Barlow.
All right, thank you. Thank you, President Sullivan's, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos. Thank you for having a few minutes for me this evening to just share some of the results from our community engagement survey. As Dr. Cavazos indicated, is that this was kind of a new process over the last couple of years in response to a lot of the standardized testing that we do in the district, or in the state rather, and it gives a little bit more information, a little bit more richer information about what districts are doing. Each district is required to do this type of survey, report it to the state, gives a little bit more information about what campuses and districts are doing besides just state testing. So just a little bit of background and rationale is that there's 9 components that were established by HB 5. Criteria evaluation and rating set by the district-wide committee of stakeholders. So this is a little bit different process in where they've, the actual components are predetermined, those 9 components are predetermined, but the district gets to set their own criteria or process for actually evaluating those. The ratings applied for all criteria, 8 components in the overall, is exemplary, recognized, acceptable, unacceptable, and sometimes not applicable. All campuses within the same school level have the same criteria for self-evaluation. So in our district, we have 3 levels, and we have similar criteria for each one of those levels. Must have documentation supporting the ratings. Results reported to the board, ratings and compliance status posted to the district website, and public hearing by August 7th. TA must also report the ratings and compliance status on the TA website no later than October 1st. So we'll go ahead and go into the results. Each one of the results are listed here in a very similar format, and so we'll start with just this first slide. I'll kind of go through a couple of numbers there, and then we'll just go through the slides pretty quickly just because it's the same format, just different components of the 9 components. So the first one here is fine arts, and you'll see here we have the ratings here at the top: exemplary, recognized, acceptable, and unacceptable. And then we have these listed by level, and then we have the district rating here at the bottom. And so these are just numbers of campuses that fell into each one. So we're talking about fine arts. Then you can see the majority of them fall into the exemplary area, and then we have quite a few in recognized, a few in the acceptable area. So we don't have any unacceptable in fine arts or any of the other areas, so that's a great thing. The next category there is wellness and physical education. I'm just kind of let you read through the numbers there. Again, we have a few acceptable, but the majority over here is in exemplary, and then a few in the recognized area. Community and parent involvement, same type of scenario there. 3 acceptable. Here we have probably the majority in recognized. We do have some exemplary there, but this is one where the majority is in the recognized area. And in the district here is in the recognized area as well. 21st century workforce development, we see similar numbers. Again, heavy here in the exemplary, a few acceptable, and then the district category there is exemplary. Second language acquisition, very similar trends here. You will notice here, though, that we have 0 in the acceptable, and everything is either exemplary or recognized, which is very heavy on the exemplary rating. And then digital learning and environment, very similar to the previous slide. No acceptable, district is exemplary, majority of the campuses also. And then dropout prevention strategies, again, very similar numbers. 0 in acceptable, the majority here in the exemplary, with district being exemplary as well. Educational programs for gifted and talented, we have 6 there that are acceptable at the elementary level, and then the majority there exemplary, and then the district is also exemplary. And then the last one is a compliance and policy reporting, and all campuses in the district met the compliance and reporting rating. That's just a yes or no. We don't get the different levels of ratings on that one. So the overall ratings, when we combine all those together, we don't have any in the acceptable category. It looks like we have about 10 in the recognized area, and then everybody else is exemplary, and then the district is exemplary. And then just one slide here on looking ahead. So if you've kept up with some of the news with respect to how the accountability system has evolved over the last many years, and especially this past year with respect to going from 4 domains to 5 domains. So right now we're under the 4 index system or 4 domains system, and next year we'll be going to a 5 domain system. That 5th domain will have a focus on this community engagement survey process. Still waiting on some of the details of that. Don't know exactly what that would look like, but I have a couple of items here, a couple of bullets here that describe what we know at this point. So for 16-17, this survey data will actually be incorporated into Domain 5 of the annual state accountability rating. Under the new system, this component will consist of 10% of the campus and district overall rating. We're not sure exactly how that plays into the process yet. Hopefully we'll get more information as we get into the fall. And in Domain 5, our understanding is that 3 indicators will be chosen by the campus, and 3 indicators will be chosen by the district. And so have a little bit of control over which areas are picked with respect to the campus and district. We just don't know how it's all going to be factored into the actual accountability process. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Barlow. Ms. Hudson?
So, Dr. Barlow, you said that the criteria is set by a committee here in the district, correct?
Yes.
Can you share with us a little bit of what those criteria might be?
So some of the criteria, and this has been in place, I think, 3 years now, and so we've just stayed with the criteria that we've used for the last 3 years, so we really haven't modified that much. We've tried to stay somewhat consistent. But maybe just some examples. So for like fine arts, we're looking for the number of performances that maybe a campus has. For wellness and physical education, the number of activities with respect to anti-bullying, that type of thing. 21st century skills might be leadership activities or opportunities for students, those types of things.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I may know the answer to this question, but I want you to answer it to know that I'm correct. For the sections that have not applicable, can you maybe just give me an example of something that may relate to? For instance, dropout prevention strategies, 1 elementary not applicable. What would that look like?
Absolutely. So some of those might be like the community pre-K center, or newcomers sometimes doesn't have some of the programs that others do. Venture, those types of things. So not all of those campuses have the exact same programs.
Okay. Then can you give me an example for one more? The 21st century workforce development. 1 elementary not applicable. Is that kind of the same thing that you were just
that
discussing?
Was probably the pre-K center.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, thank you.
Yes, it was the pre-K center. Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Barlow. I have one question. As we move into next year's report, will we set some goals aligned back to the strategic plan on how these may be moving in areas more to, we have many in the exemplary and recognized, but will there be actions to move some to boost them?
I'm sure there will, as we continue discussions about measures with strategic plan and merging that together and trying to make a kind of one fluid, solid system. Certainly those are options that we can consider and discuss, absolutely.
Great. I think it's good to integrate all the information that we have so that we can move together forward in all of these areas.
Sure.
Good to see the great news in almost every area. Great news really in all the areas, but maybe some areas we can improve as well. So,
Sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Very good. Next,
Thank you.
We'll, excuse me. Next, we'll open our public hearing on the 2016-2017 budget and proposed tax rate. Ms. Benjamin, could I please confirm that we have no cards related? I have one over here. Oh. Pardon me. We have one comment card from the audience. When I call your name, please step to the podium. You will have 5 minutes to speak. Trustees will not reply to speakers. First speaker, Mr. Stephen Poole.
Ms. Sullins, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos, I'm Stephen Poole, Executive Director of UEA. And Ms. Sullins, thank you for the moment of silence early on behalf of Larry Shaw. He was a giant of a man, and I'm going to miss him greatly. And our continued work at UEA is going to be how we honor him and his legend. I wanted to speak tonight about the budget, and specifically health insurance. Last Friday, the TRS board adopted the rates for the 16-17 school year for the active employees, and the rates went up to, in some plans, 5%. A teacher who wants to cover herself, her spouse, and her children will now pay $1,136 a month for health insurance. And in addition to the increased rates, they deteriorated benefits. $3,600 in out-of-pocket expenses for a family, and now $13,700 maximum for a family. You know, my mom was a school secretary her entire life, and when she retired, she was making $19,000. Teachers' assistants in this district cannot afford even the lowest, highest deductible plan offered by the state. And you've heard teachers say it, every dollar you give in raises, the state takes away in increased premiums. Teachers today take home less than they made 5 years ago. This is not an AISD problem. This is not your fault. I lay this at the feet of our elected officials down in Austin. They have created this abomination, and they should correct this abomination. You know, our lieutenant governor parachuted into a neighboring district and told that school district and superintendent how to run their business. I have high hope that he will do the same and come to Arlington or Fort Worth and Dallas and address the health care crisis our employees face. I have high hopes he's going to do it, but I'm wise enough to not hold my breath. You know, our association has stood at the podiums over the years and been critical at times and supportive at times. But this is one of the issues that I am willing, and UEA is willing, to stand shoulder and shoulder with every one of you as we enter into this legislative session. I always say, there is not a problem that can't be solved if we work together. And this is one of the areas where we can definitely work together. Our employees should not have to decide upon food on the table or health insurance for themselves or the children. The state, since 2003 and the inception of the statewide health insurance plan, has maintained a stagnant contribution. The employees have picked up quite a bit of the increases. You all recognize the difficulties employees have. You've differentiated contributions, especially for our lowest paid employees. You recognize it. Now's the time for all of us to work together and make our elected officials aware of it too and hold them accountable. So if you're willing to work with us, we're going to stand shoulder and shoulder with you. And I think this fall, going into the legislative session, presents that perfect opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poole. Now, is there anyone else who would like to address the board regarding the 2016-2017 budget or proposed tax rate? Seeing none, the public hearing on the 2016-2017 budget and proposed tax rate is now closed. Now we come to our open forum for agenda items. This is a routine part. Just a moment, please make sure. Do we have any cards this evening for open forum? Right, okay. Since we don't have any open cards for agenda items, I won't read the policy and process for this, and we'll move on in the agenda then to our action item A. Consider all matters related to the issuance of AISD Unlimited School Building Bonds Series 2016A. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins, and the board heard a presentation on this at the dinner meeting, so if there are any questions, Ms. Powell can help us answer those.
Not hearing any questions, Ms. President Sullins, I would like to move to approve the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance and sale of the Arlington Independent School District Unlimited Tax School Building Bonds, Series 2016A, and approving all of the other matters pertaining thereto.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Hibbs. I have a second.
Second.
And a second by Dr. Reich. Any discussion? Please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Thank you. And we will move to action item B, which is to consider the AISD Unlimited Tax Refunding Bond Series 2016B. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins. And again, we covered this at dinner meeting, so if there are any questions, we can answer.
If I don't see any questions, may I make a motion, please?
Please.
Okay. I'd like to move to approve the adoption of an order authorizing the issuance and the sale of Arlington Independent School District Unlimited Tax Refunding Bonds, Series 2016B, and approving all other matters pertaining thereto, with an added comment that the district did save $5.7 million.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Mays and a second by Ms. Hudson. Seeing no further discussion, please vote. All 7 trustees voted in the affirmative. Thank you. And we will move to action item C, which is another bond series, tax refunding bond series 2016C. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins, and we covered this at dinner meeting, so if there are any questions, otherwise, you can vote.
Ms. Sullins, I move to approve the adoption of the order authorizing the issuance and sale of the Arlington Independent School District Unlimited Tax Refunding Bonds, Taxable Series 2016C, and approving all other matters pertaining thereto.
I second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Hogg, a second by Ms. Walton. Seeing no further discussion, please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Thank you very much, Dr. Cavazos and Ms. Powell, and to all of the people here this evening that I have brought forth all of the information and prepared for us these books that give us a lot more detail on the savings that are available. Appreciate all of the work that you do for the district. Thank you. So now we will move to a discussion action item this evening. Board of Trustees Handbook. Mr. Hogg?
Thank you, President Sullins. And to the board, I would ask us, as we look at this as discussion action, the board governance committee's been reviewing this and making red line agreements. We had some more that have been done recently, and so what we'd like to do is redline this even more, send it out to the entire board for more review, so that everyone can review, take a look at, and then, if possible, bring this back to an August meeting, either the first or second meeting in August for final approval. Some of the changes, and let me give lots of credit to Ms. Mays, our auditor, for catching any little error of typing and anything of a board calendar we've been working, and some of my colleagues that have been adding things to keep our board work calendar as updated as possible, adding different things that relate back to policy, and then just making sure everything is clear and works with each other. The board handbook is a handbook that it's not policies, but it's tied to policies that are in there, and it's kind of an operating procedure for the board to utilize that all board members agree on and agree to, and then also allow citizens to see what our expected rules of decorum are for the entire district. So it's a very valuable document. Even though I think we're close to it, I would say I think we need, while everyone gets summer break, our governance committee will finalize it and get it cleared up and send out to the board for August approval.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hogg. Hats off to the governance committee for the tremendous amount of work keeping all policies current this year and taking on many other additional responsibilities. And so we look forward to seeing the board handbook, red line version. If anyone has any additions, suggestions, whatnot, please get that into Mr. Hogg. So thank you. And we will move then to our next discussion action item, B, design of the Agricultural Sciences Center.
Thank you, President Sullins. And tonight we bring forward the schematic design for the Ag Science Center. We've been working with our architects and our staff and a board committee as well. And so we're ready to present that schematic design tonight.
Evening, President Sullins, board members, Dr. Cavazos. In our bond program, our 2014 bond program, we do have funding for an agricultural science center. VOK Architects was selected as the architecture firm to design this building or this facility. They are also designing the Career Tech Center. The Career Tech Center is slated to open in August of 2017, and likewise the Ag Science Center will open in August of 2017. So VOK has developed a schematic design, which is kind of a first step in the design process. They have done so with input from some of our students, our ag teachers, our career tech programming staff, and central facilities staff through a charrette process that we held back in November. And so they took input on the kinds of programs and classes we intend to offer at the Ag Science Center, and from that have begun their planning work. A schematic design is one of the early steps in a design process. If the board approves the schematic design tonight, then the architects will move into the more technical phases of design work with design development and then construction documents. So we have with us this evening several folks from VOK. We have Justin Hiles and also Jamie Barnes and Sarah Gardner. And Justin is going to make the presentation this evening, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the design and the program. So, Justin.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. President Sullins, Dr. Cavazos, board, thank you for having us tonight to present the agricultural science facility. So as Ms. Powell said, we started with our design charrette similar to the Career Tech Center of how we started our design. And we had teachers, students, administrative staff all weigh in on programs that were offered and what was needed long-term for the Ag Science facility and on day one. Through that process, or after that process, have met with staff many times and with the City of Dalworthington Gardens to move forward with what you're going to see tonight. So this first slide shows the master plan, and this is kind of what came out of the design charrette of kind of all of the items that could potentially happen on this site. And we wanted to plan to make sure that any future programs that were offered in the district could be accommodated on the site without having to do a major renovation to the existing building or anything like that. So phase one is approximately a 23,000 square foot building with parking for 50. The site is on the corner of Pioneer Parkway and Michigan Avenue, just west of Michigan, with access on both Pioneer and Michigan. We will be adding fencing along Pioneer Parkway and Michigan to secure the site. And I think that's, and then we've got, like I said, the elements in the future phases that could be added to the existing plan. The floor plan on the next sheet, we identified the main entry is there in the northeast corner. There's an office at the entry and some public toilets there. You enter in and there's the classroom, 2 classrooms, metal construction lab, and exercise area. And then on the west end there are cattle pens, and on the east end sheep and goat pens. There's a drive alley through the center to where they can drive a vehicle through there to unload any equipment. And then there's also a drive on the south side for access to the metal construction lab to deliver materials. And if projects are done, they can take those away. Elevations, we're showing metal wall panels, a metal roof, clear story windows for natural light through the facility, louvers both in the at the ridge of the roof and at each end for ventilation, and then we have masonry walls at the ends and both sides, and in a contrasting color at the entry to kind of highlight the entry with the flags and the lettering and canopy. And then the south and east elevations, you see the masonry there at the metal fabrication classroom, and then at the ends. And then we have a rendering here. This is the view that you'll have from Pioneer Parkway. Again, highlighting the entry there with the different color masonry and flags and the signage. And then, as Ms. Powell said, upon approval tonight, we'll be moving into the design development construction documents, and we look to bring a bid. This would be a competitive seal proposal. We expect to bring that bid and approval in October to start construction late October and still open in August of next year, 2017. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much.
You're
There
welcome.
are some questions
Yeah.
this evening. Always appreciate you guys coming and bringing these documents for a review. Mr. Hibbs, first questions?
Outstanding overview of what the building looks like. I really have a question about the grounds,
Okay.
on the fencing.
Okay.
This being where it's going to be very public in nature. What type of fencing are we looking at? It's not a chain link fence, is it?
Not a chain link fence, no. We are, we'll work with the district and the city to determine that has not been made, but most likely it will be an ornamental fence. And we'd really like to transition at the entry to maybe a pipe rail fence to give kind of that agricultural look, but still make sure that it's a secure fence, so.
Okay.
And there are considerations, and we're still working with the district administrative staff and the teachers to determine if we need to have an internal security fence for the animals as well. But that determination has not been made right now.
Okay. Was there any design challenges that were caused that is going to be causing us to limit space in any way, or did it all seem to flow pretty well?
I think it flowed pretty well. We did, I guess I didn't mention this, but we did start with a program that came out with a little bit above the budget, and we are worked to get that down to what the minimum is on day one that the district needs to facilitate the ag program. And so we are right now at $3.2 million right now for this design, and I believe the budget was $1.9 million in the bond program. And we are still working, and we'll continue to work through design development and construction documents to bring that number down as much as possible while still providing the program for day one.
Okay. And we all realize that in our bond program, there's some projects you may be a little bit over on, some that you'll come in under on. It's trying to manage the entirety of the scope of the bond. I appreciate it. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. Dr. Reich?
Thank you, President Sullins. Thank you for the information. Myself, Mr. Hogg, and Ms. Walton were the board subcommittee that were able to hear this previously and review this, and thank you for doing that. At that meeting, I just want to get some clarification. Your response to Mr. Hibbs on the fencing, that it might be ornamental. I was pretty certain that what we had discussed, that it would be chain link, but it would be a black vinyl dipped.
Okay.
So I'm just curious as far as if we could get a little bit of clarification on that. I know you said that it's still being worked out, but speaking to the budget, how much of a difference are we pretty much going to net out about the same? And security-wise, aesthetics versus security, security is very important. So I just wanted to double check that.
Dr. Reich is right, and Justin wasn't with us the other morning, but that was likely, that's the initial plan or thought on the fencing. And so that's where we'll start. We'll also look at the fencing down Michigan and on the south side of the property and on the west side. So we want to make sure that it highlights the agricultural feel of the entire site and the facility. It does have a very nice look, and it will not be just a chain link fence.
Right.
So.
Okay. And some of the questions that we had, I don't know if we're able to have answers to those questions or not. We had talked about water recapture systems, lead design elements, solar capacity, presentation type areas or interactive type areas. I don't know, I mean, they're ready, so if you could let the board know what we're
Yeah,
talking about.
I can speak a little bit to that, and maybe Callie Horn can speak to that as well. We've looked at a few different options. One is water reclamation. We feel the most appropriate for this is an above-ground storage tank and collecting all of the rainwater from the roof. That system will run probably $20,000 to $30,000 for a system like that, and that will basically supply some irrigation water. It will not be a gray water collection system, and we feel like the above-ground storage tank and furnishing water for the irrigation system is the best learning opportunity as well, because it's all visible, whereas storing enough water for a gray water system would actually require an underground tank and be very, very expensive. We have looked at wind turbines as well, and that would again be a system that is very educational in nature. A wind system in our area and DFW Metroplex is not going to net you very much energy. It's just a fact of where we are geographically. But those systems again are fairly inexpensive in the $20,000 to $35,000 range, and they would include a dashboard to where it would say when the turbine's spinning, how much energy is it producing, and it's something visible that the kids are seeing when it's working. Solar is expensive, but it does net a payback over time. It does work. There's opportunities for both solar panels on the roof or within one of the fields on pole mounted. That again would have a dashboard similar to the wind system, so it's an excellent learning opportunity. And those to supply for the whole building, you're probably looking in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. But that's something that we could design to have a little bit to start and capacity to grow over time as funds are available to supply that. So all the systems we think that are appropriate would probably be in the $600,000 to $750,000 range once they're bid out. So.
That's great. And I don't expect you to have an answer to this, but I know our staff is very good at seeking out any type of grant funding opportunities that might be available, and certainly there's hopefully something out there for us to apply some of these to. I guess at this point that's all I'd have. It was Mr. Hogg that brought up some of these issues of water reclamation, so I don't know if you have any additional thoughts, I'd pass it over to you.
Yeah, Dr. Rice, you asked about LEED certification. Was there any discussion of, looking towards official LEED certification in this building?
We had some internal discussion after our meeting on Monday, I guess it was. LEED is a very expensive certification to obtain. In this particular building, the only portion of the building that is conditioned is the office, the classrooms, the metal fab lab. It is our opinion right now that given this type of building, we don't think it makes sense to go for the LEED certification. What we have done, and even with the help of VLK, such as at Adams, we incorporate as many of those components into the design itself. But I think our initial thought right now on this particular facility, we weren't sure that the cost was worth it on this one. And I don't know, Mr. Horn, did you have anything else to add to that?
No, we really should consider doing that type of process early on, because it's more about material selection and so forth. To implement that process at this time would be very expensive and really back us up. It would delay us. And so in a near LEED facility or a near LEED design facility, we can do that anytime during this process and really make sense of it. but it's just cost prohibitive. We might spend as much as $200,000 that really could go towards the education of the kids, or more effective systems in the building, and than just a plaque on the front of the building. and so
Yeah,
forth.
Mr. Horn, I'm not for just for certificates.
Sure.
I don't think that's the best value for us. Mr. Horn, what do you think the payback is? You know, as we discussed on the other day, the solar is most expensive. What do you think the payback is of that investment?
Certainly, in my experience, solar is the most effective means of a return, a quick return. A typical payback on a building like this would probably be in the 18, 19-year range. With solar, you could probably expect a payback on that system in about 8 years, maybe quicker, because the building's not heavily in use during the day. It's an ag facility. So it would generate electricity all year round, essentially, even in the winter months, and with essentially low usage, except during those times when we might have a small ag show or something like that. So you'd get a lot of generation from the facility and not as much use of that system. So we'd be putting power on the grid essentially daily.
I think it's a great thought, and I think beyond, I'm all for, it takes money to educate kids, so I think that's a critical factor, but the key word there is educate kids.
Right.
The more you can show as agricultural technology advances, as students are realizing more and more, water reclamation is a major issue. Look at every place that has a drought. I think it's a critical factor to get them thinking, this is how things process, this is how they work. And I think the low cost of the wind turbine is an educational tool. I think that's a piece. I think the water reclamation is I love the idea of actually being outside. I think it's actually a more creative idea of how to show it's an educational tool. And then the solar, I think the way you can show those beyond the dollars, and I'm usually a dollars guy, I like to talk the dollars up here, but this is a time where I think it's about education for students. So I think our board seriously has to consider that tonight.
Ms. Sullins, I know that there's other people that were wanting to ask questions. I'd like to ask this of my colleague, Mr. Hogg. I would assume that this would be the time to actually look at the addition of solar. Is this something that you are proposing?
By all means, Mr. Hibbs, I think it's something we need to propose. And Mr. Horn, this is something we need to propose and kind of somewhat make a decision tonight if we're adding this on for
Certainly,
development and bidding out and all the different pieces, correct?
Right, we're at SD or schematic design, so it would be appropriate to decide this time so that we could allow them to move forward at DD.
So, Mr. Hogg, if we were looking at an addition of a $500,000 cost, would you think that this would be coming maybe out of potentially out of our reserves, or against what we're doing now with the?
Mr. Hibbs, I'm okay with either way. We can take it out of one way or the other. It may come out of the reserves, it may come out of the bond. It's that thought of what's happening with the bond. Do we save money on other projects to do that, or do we have others, or do we pull it out of reserve? I think.
Yeah. I think that myself personally, I think that we've got a very healthy fund balance right now.
I would have no problem.
And not doing anything that would stress where we're at with our bond for another $500,000.
And especially for items, Mr. Hibbs, that are one-time cost, which
Absolutely.
is truly what a fund balance is for. Pulling things like this for a one-time fund balance, for one-time expenses, that's what a fund balance can be used for in certain cases.
If you move to make a motion on that, I'm happy to second.
When we get to that point, I think it's all ready. I think we'd see what other folks have to say.
For your patience.
It's all good. This is an exciting presentation, and I want to thank everybody for their hard work. I do have quite a number of questions. Can you estimate how many students this initial facility is going to be serving? Do we have any idea?
Our new principal.
In this particular facility, there's 2 classrooms in the metal lab, and it'll service about 25 students in each one of those spaces per period. So that's 75 students per period, and there's 4 periods in a day. So over 75 times 8, that's going to give you your total number of students that can be served at this facility, as far as classroom instruction goes.
And then how did we estimate parking?
Yeah, so we use that, the exercise areas are going to have fencing, temporary fencing, to where they could be used as a show arena type setup, and bring temporary bleachers or something in for that. And so parking was determined based on that use, and that's kind of the max. And there is a little bit of overflow grass parking, but 50
I was just going to ask about that. So this over here that's event parking will be on the grass?
Correct.
Okay.
And that would be a rare, when a show was going on in that exercise area.
Okay. So I guess the remainder of my questions are a little bit about how this building will be used. I am a bona fide city mouse. They did not have any ag classes at Polytechnic High School. So I noticed that there is nowhere to eat on this campus. Will we be planning on arranging the classes around meal times, or, yeah?
No, that's an excellent question. Based on the bell schedule that we've adopted for this facility and for the Career Center, the students will be able to eat lunch at their home campus, either prior to coming to the facility or once they return back.
And breakfast as well?
As well, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Just wanted to make sure there's no hungry kids.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Let's see. So then, another question that I had, it looks like the cattle and sheep pens are outside?
They're covered.
They're covered, but they are
but they are
outside.
Correct.
Will we have cattle and sheep out there year-round? Maybe you shouldn't sit down, I'm so sorry.
No, that's a good question. For like sheep and goats, typically those are market animals, and so the students will purchase those in August or September, and they keep them till about March, at which time they're sold. So there's not any sheep and goats in there from about the middle of March till about the end of August. The heifers, on the other hand, where the cattle are, those are year-round, and so those animals would be there wintertime and summertime as well.
And I guess that is okay and healthy for the animals,
Yeah.
Regardless
Yeah,
of the weather conditions?
That is true. The main thing is as long as they're covered, as long as we can keep them dry. As far as the summertime it's hot, but there's ventilation. The wintertime, believe it or not, it's just like your dogs do at home. They put on what we call their winter coat, and so the animals do the same thing. And so the coldness is not going to affect them as long as we can keep them dry.
Okay. And then one other question. I noticed that the rabbit pen is sort of attached to the metal construction lab.
Most of the rabbits are housed at the students' homes.
Okay.
They're small enough in a small pen that most of them keep them at their houses. Most of the rabbits that would be there would be for demonstration purposes, or if a student brought one in because they needed an ear tattooed or nails clipped or something like that. But as far as the noise bothering, is that what you're alluding to?
Yes, yeah.
Those walls will insulate that, and so we don't believe that will be a factor.
Okay. Let me see. If I had any others.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sound like pretty awesome rabbits, getting those ear tattoos. Okay, so then my additional question, and I apologize if I missed this earlier. So it sounds like Mr. Hogg may be preparing to propose that we sort of add some things that will make this facility more green and offer that educational experience to our students. What would that cost be again?
Overall, with solar and then with wind and with some reclamation of rainwater, we're looking at probably between $600,000 to $750,000 additional cost. And to give you some idea of how that payback might work, a facility such as this would likely cost, on average, about $50,000 a year in electricity expense. And so, if you just figure the electricity expense over time, it would probably pay itself off in about 10 years. And we may produce more such that we could generate additional savings. But you would, over the life of this building, as long as the solar system was operable, you would have essentially no electricity bill.
What kind of maintenance is there for the solar panels? Are they vulnerable to hail?
They are vulnerable to hail, but the state and your insurance company, they insure the solar panels as your roof system. So, and I've had experience with that as well, and I did Lady Bird Johnson We lost all the panels in the hailstorm of 2011, and they replaced all of those through the insurance.
And can you go back over again for me? What was the initial budget for the project, and then what is our projected budget, I guess now, including the green options?
You want to talk about that? I think we were at 3.2.
So, yeah, right now, our design without the green options was about 3.2 million.
Okay.
So with the green options, we're looking probably about, a little less
Right
than
at
4
four.
million, about
Okay.
3.9 million. At worst case. And then the budget in the construction budget in the bond was a little over 1.9 million.
I would very much appreciate if we could hear maybe Ms. Powell's opinion on the budget and maybe the impact that the green options might have.
Yeah, no, we have had some conversation even this week on that, and we agreed that in terms of our opportunities to expand educational programming at the site, even possibly for some younger students. We think that these are good ideas. It does, as you've heard, it may add $750,000 or so to the budget, which would put us at a total overage right now, an estimated overage of about $2 million. So I would still be comfortable taking this from the bond fund, and so that would be a direction that I would prefer.
And then one final question. Sort of looking ahead to the future again, I don't really have any experience with agriculture, but I have read some startling statistics about how many people will be expected to feed in the next 20 or 50 years, and sort of the innovations in agriculture that will be necessary for us to be able to do that. So I would just ask, are these green options sort of the way that things are going and something that's really vital for our students to be learning?
And I'll let Mr. Horn and others speak to that too, but I think, other programming that we've talked about for possible future expansion that would not even require additional buildings, crop production, turf management, and orchard production that also lend themselves to what you just spoke about. So I think we have a lot of opportunity to help prepare our students for some of the needs that we all will be facing in the future. So I don't know if you have any additional information on trends.
I would say, we've done a recent building for Northeast Texas Community College that we did. It was a net zero building, and they teach sustainable farming there. So they have a sustainable building that they're teaching sustainable farming at. So that definitely ties into the education of the building. The building is educating students, and the students are then taking that and in turn taking that into the curriculum. So.
Thank you very much for answering my many questions.
You're welcome.
And I would say that in our new strategic plan, one of our goals is to prepare our students for citizenship. And so really preparing them adequately for the future, I think, should be one of our priorities. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Ms. Walton?
Thank you, President Sullins. Answered a lot of my questions. I just have one left. The cattle pens are located on the west side of the building, correct?
Yes.
Okay. On the east side, where the sheep pens and goat pens are, there seems to be a little more overhang of the pens. There is a little overhang on 4 of the pens, but I'm looking at those southwest pens in summer. Those are going to be kind of warm. Has any thought been given to providing any sort of awning or shade or something for that end of the building?
Yes, we've talked about that. That will be something that we'll look at as we get into design development. More seriously, we'll study the sun angles of that, and we could easily, for very little expense, add a small overhang there as needed. We'll also provide infrastructure to provide shading devices if the need arises, and also for wind. So like in the winter time, the north wind that will block a shade that will block the north wind. that infrastructure will be in place to where it could be easily added in the future.
Okay, thank you. I
welcome.
appreciate that.
Thank you. I have learned that my A&M education did me much better in accounting than it did for agriculture, so. Thank you, Kristen, for a lot of your questions, because I had a few of the same. So I'm gonna stick with questions you can answer, and then I have one more question for Ms. Powell. Will we bus students to this location?
Yes, we will, and we're coordinating that planning work along with the transportation needs for the Career Tech Center, and so, yes, we will be busing kids.
Okay, so on the site plan phase 1 PowerPoint, right there, what would a bus drop-off look like?
You want to
They
speak
would,
to?
yes, the buses would come off of Pioneer onto Michigan, turn in, come around and drop off here at the main entry, and then loop around and exit on Michigan.
Okay, so there will be enough room for it to completely go around?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Cindy, I'm sorry, before you sit down. Okay, so back to where we currently are and what we budgeted for, excluding our proposed maybe motion of adding additional dollars for green, do we have any thoughts right now on how to just make up the difference of what we originally budgeted for and where we're estimated to be as of today's date, between the 3.2 and the 1.9?
The design you see here is very functional, I would say, and it provides the spaces that we need for the instructional programs we're going to deliver. And we've had conversation and made adjustments here and there to get the cost estimate. And remember, we are still looking at an estimate right now, to the point that we're discussing this evening. As we've already heard, and I think Mr. Hibbs commented on, you plus and minus your way all the way through a bond program. Given dollars that we have within the bond program for program contingencies, and where we expect to be heading with a lot of our deficiency projects, I'm still comfortable taking that from the bond program.
Okay. In addition to, if we
Mhm.
were to make a motion
Yes.
for the additional monies. Okay. And then just one other question, and this may be a principal question. In the future, are we doing any plans for, once again, my A&M education, like the skin on the sheep and the goats? Do you actually shave and turn that into income, or?
We're not shaving the skin. Let's just clear.
The coat.
We're
the
not.
coat.
This is not a slaughterhouse. We're
Yeah.
not teaching that, even though it'd be educational.
It
but-
would be, it would be. For the most part, the goats, they're not the types of goats that would produce the types of fiber that would be conducive to turning that into a textile of some sort.
Okay.
You would need an Angora or a Cashmere or something like that, and these are a
Okay.
different breed. We've not had sheep in a very long time. That doesn't mean students can't raise them. Most
Right.
of them just prefer goats because they're a little bit easier to maintain and take care of. So, but I mean, if we get to that point, that could certainly be an option for us to look at.
Okay,
So-
and then my one last question. With their animals housed here on the weekend and schools Monday through Friday, what's the plan on securing the site?
We will have badge access for students, and so there will be a time when they're allowed to come in to feed and take care of things, and then that will be cut off at a certain time each day. And we could control who goes in and who goes out. The ag teachers would have to, of course, monitor that, and just like with anything else, there would be orientation for the students and the parents to set those parameters in place to let them know what those expectations are. Of course, if there was ever an emergency or something like that, they could contact the ag teacher, and they could meet them out there and let them into that facility if there were, for some reason, they needed in and their badge access was actually at the end of that time or before that time.
Okay. And then for either you or VLK, I don't see anything, and I don't know if it would be normal to put like a room for safety, let's say like a washroom if, let's say someone got kicked in the head or, had to wash out fertilizer or food, once again, my ag experience. But I don't, is there anything in here for that, for the safety and security of the students that are actually handling the animals?
Right now, what we have designed would be the toilet rooms would be the only thing. But we can look with that with the district and administration and teachers and see if that is truly a need, and we can definitely address that in the
Okay,
current
yeah, I
footprint
would
and
like to
plan.
know that.
Okay.
It would be rather easy to add a safety shower and eye wash, and most likely that's already included, but
Yes.
he wasn't covering it. So we would have that in one of the classrooms, and we could use one of those classrooms as kind of a triage area if we had to.
Okay, if we had to, so are we planning on doing it, or we're gonna?
We'll just make that part of the design. That would be
Okay.
easy to do.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood the question.
No, no
I thought you
problem.
meant a room, but yes, there will be emergency shower and eye wash and that in the building.
Right, okay.
Thank you, President Sullins. I guess I can't really call my urban school board colleagues that because I grew up here in Arlington, so I've been as there as they come. But as a former FFA student, at least I know a little about that. But I appreciate all the thoughts on the protection of these animals. But let me tell you, this is a nicer place than any of the animals would ever be staying currently right now. They are not this secure. And also, when we talk security for students, this entire facility will have cameras that can be remotely monitored by our security department, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And that's a key factor because we do send out students all over the community to keep their animals at certain locations. And Ms. Hudson, you were getting to the questions, I think, is the perfect thought of how much use it's going to be. And we have the students from the high schools that will be using this, but I think the key factor to this facility is the amount of elementary students and junior high students that can come on field trips, make this a field trip location, because in our community we have many students who don't know where their meat comes from. And that understanding of knowledge of agricultural sources, and as we see some of the future expansions of crop expansion orchards, that's where this facility goes. So while I would say I'm not the most green person out there, it's not a critical factor for me. I think from an educational standpoint, I think this is a critical piece on that. Mr. Horn, can you tell me what all locations other districts you looked at for comparison on building this facility?
As far as we've looked, recently we went to Crowley, and then I know VLK has experience with others, but that was the most recent one that we visited. Do you want to share some others that you've used?
Yeah, we've done ag science facilities. I mentioned Northeast Texas Community College in Mount Pleasant. We've also done Granbury and Midlothian ISD ag science facility, Crum ISD, Crowley, and then a handful in the Houston area as well.
Okay. Thank you. And let me ask on the wash center, I mean, if that's standard, that's fine. Is that something normal? Do we normally have that in our metal shops and fabrication right now? Well, science, you're dealing with.
Are you speaking of like the eye wash and showers?
Yeah, I am.
That would be customary. Any kind of a lab setting, you would have that where there might be chemicals or welding or any kind of heat source, we would have that, yes, sir.
And we have that currently at where we weld right now?
I don't know if we have that currently where we weld. Do you know, Ginger? Or Craig?
I don't think in the high school.
It is designed in the Career Tech Center, into the welding, the auto shop.
Okay, at the Career Tech Center it
CNC,
is.
It is in all of those labs, it is.
And I say that because while you're not dealing with that many chemicals or things of the nature. You're dealing with plasma cutters. You're dealing with, arc welding, wire welding, some of those things. So I think it's fair. I think it's fair to add in. I don't think there's as much concern for chemical spills unless that's something they're doing that I don't know about now. So that's interesting. I think overall this is a nice design, nice concept. I think it keeps our animals, it keeps our students and our educational safety. I was going to go with Mr. Hibbs. I thought the idea of proposing it with fund balance is probably the way if Ms. Powell's recommending from a bond. I'm more than willing to say from the bond, and the thought of that is one way or the other, if we have to pull out of the fund balance, it can come out, and we can always adjust as it goes through as we get farther into this bond project. Those adjustments can be made. So at this time, I'd be more than willing to make a motion for approval with recommended additions for energy efficiency projects as discussed out of the bond project.
I'll second that.
I give a motion by Mr. Hogg and a second by Mr. Hibbs. There are still trustees with a couple of questions or comments. And Dr. Reich.
Thank you, President Sullins. First off, maybe perhaps we could have goat's milk and cheese and sheep's wool as revenue generators instead of the skin. And I would also add, as far as the security for these animals, it only takes one time from personal experience to chase a goat down in the middle of a neighborhood because it's at a kid's house and it got out, to know that this is much better than current options. Regarding the opportunities that Mr. Hogg was talking about, the educational opportunities, bringing elementary kids, field trips, et cetera, and we had discussed this earlier when we looked at this design. Can you tell me where would they be doing that type of education? The thing that I brought up was about making it like almost like a museum type of thing where it's interactive. Would that be within one of the classrooms and that would require taking a classroom offline, or would it be near the office space, or is it something else from a design standpoint that we have to add?
The systems that we're talking about specifically all operate with dashboards, much like our energy management system does currently. And so monitors and that sort of thing could be in the classrooms, or they could be mounted essentially out on the entryway corridor into the facility. So there's any number of options that we could employ.
Okay,
to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't know what the actual size of that corridor is. It's probably, what, a standard 8-foot width? Yes. Okay, so there's room there. And that actually leads me to my final question. There's the doors, the double doors coming in to the building, which pretty much locks you to the office area. I just wanted to make sure that second door, is that a pretty much locked door for security purpose all the time? So it's almost like a vestibule type of situation?
It's really to secure the office area more than anything. So because it would be, if you're in the office area or that basic area, you would egress. It would allow you to egress out into the open area of that ag facility the way they're set up currently.
I don't have the pointer. I'm talking about there's two double doors. There's one at the entrance.
Right there?
No, further up. Yeah, because that's the entrance that people are coming into. Correct. And then that second double door, to me, is then access to the entire facility. That's correct. Is that under lock all the time?
The way it's set up, is it's operable out of that area, that vestibule area, into that barn. So it's really more for securing the office than it is keeping people out of the ag facility. Does that make sense? Yeah.
The intent is when students arrive, they would not go through that entry area. They would come in directly from the outside into the.
Dr. Reich, the bathrooms are inside, the office is inside. Gotcha. That wash area and the trim area and that hallway is outside.
Area.
Correct.
Okay, and we don't have any concerns. I just know around our district, we've gone through a lot of expense to make sure that we have security vestibules at all our elementaries and et cetera, et cetera. So I just want to make sure that the safety of our students are being considered.
Yeah, in this design, we don't have the traditional security vestibule set up here. If that's something we needed to do, then it would be rather easy to do that. Add a second set of doors just inside and force people into the office area. So it could be done if that's the desire. So it would be very easy to incorporate.
I don't know. I don't know if it would be necessary from the stance that they would still have access if they just went around through that alleyway. So it would be at best a false sense of security. So I don't know why we'd have to go through that expense. I just want to make sure that we're covering all the bases, take care of our kids.
Certainly.
Thank you, Dr. Rush. Ms. Mays?
Yeah, just for clarity before we vote, the 3.9 is only our estimate for Phase 1. It does not include the two additional future expansions. Is that correct?
That's right.
Correct, yes.
That's right.
Very good. Thank you. I would had a couple of questions, and I know that you have been addressing this, but for our viewers here and our viewers at home, could you briefly discuss the plan for animal waste management at this facility?
So there will be dumpsters on site, and the students will be required to clean their animal pens daily. And the district will set up a collection of the dumpsters every other day.
So every other day, everything's removed?
Correct.
Where will it go?
To the landfill. Oh, sorry.
What we're going to do is we've already begun the process to establish a permitted compost site at our maintenance facility. And so we will pick up that waste every other day, or as necessary. If it needs to be picked up daily, we'll do that. And then we'll carry that to the site with district equipment, and then we'll begin composting that with other yard waste and tree limbs that we harvest during the wintertime. And then as that material cooks, is a term to use, as it cooks and becomes more compostable, then we use that around the district in flower beds and that sort of thing. So it will be reused on site throughout the district.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. There's been some questions about that. Sounds like a great plan. I would also like to encourage Dr. Cavazos and Mr. Wright, if he's, when we expand these learning opportunities, and I think that's an outstanding suggestion, and I'm fully supportive of the green additions for water reclamation, solar and wind, so that also the students have the learning opportunity. I'd ask that we formalize that and take that a step further, and you probably already have, that we develop certification programs where possible, so that while the students are here, they also get the certification to be workforce ready in more areas than we are currently able to do. That if we don't do these now, I think we can't go back and do them, so now is the time to put those in. I'm fully supportive of that. Thank you all for the presentations. Well, one more question, Ms. Hudson.
No, my question was about the animal waste and why we weren't composting it, but Mr. Horn is already way ahead of me, so I like that. Thank you.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Hogg and a second by Mr. Hibbs. We've had extensive discussion. I don't see any more light, so could we please vote? All trustees vote in the affirmative. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much.
Our next item is discussion action item C, consider adoption of the 2016-2017 fiscal year budget. Dr. Cavazos?
Thank you, President Sullins, and we've had a number of budget discussions. We've had it with the board and the finance committee, and so tonight that presentation to culminate that discussion on budget, Ms. Powell.
Thank you, President Sullins, board members, Dr. Cavazos. We showed the slide on June 9th that kind of line out our discussion on the budget. And on June 9th, we focused on the general fund budget. That was our preliminary budget. We also talked about staffing needs. We discussed compensation. We discussed FFC recommendations. And also that evening, the board voted on the proposed tax rate that went into the notice of public hearing, for the public hearing that we had earlier this evening. So tonight, we're going to circle back and look at the general fund again. At the last meeting, the board gave us direction to add several items into the budget so that you could see it when we brought it back. We've done that. We also will revisit the topic of health insurance. We do have some current information on that from TRS. And then we will also look at the budgets for the other funds and talk about what's in those. The board, this is a discussion action item. The board can vote to adopt the budget this evening. I will comment that by law, we have to adopt the budget by June 30th because our fiscal year begins July 1st. So we will not be actually voting on a tax rate tonight. We actually adopt our tax rate in August after we get certified values from Tarrant Appraisal District. So this particular slide shows just a summary of the different funds, the expenditure budget that of each fund. So you can see that the total budget for all funds is about $1.1 billion. The estimated tax rate, and this is what the board acted on at the last meeting, would total $1.3986. So $39.86 cents. There's no change proposed in the maintenance and operations rate. That's the rate that funds our day-to-day operations out of the general fund. The debt service rate that we're estimating right now is actually 1.4 cents less than last year's rate. And we will again bring this back to you all in August after we get our certified values. So that debt service rate that we're looking at here may be slightly different when we bring it back. If for some reason our values were to change in a manner that would cause us to have a higher rate than what you see here, we would have to have another hearing, like the one we had earlier, because we have to publish that notice in the paper and come back and have another hearing. I don't expect that that would happen, but if it's less, then we certainly will bring that news as well, and we'll adopt that rate in August. So on the general fund, this particular slide shows simply a summary of, this is the budget that we looked at on June the 9th. And then this is the budget that includes the changes the board directed us to incorporate into the budget. You'll notice there's no change on revenue. The only line item that changed here is the expenditure budget, and we incorporated into the budget the salary increase that we discussed at the last meeting and new positions. In terms of the salary increase, the board directed us to build into the proposed budget a 4.66% raise on midpoint for auxiliary employees and a 2% raise on base salaries for all other employees. So we've added that in. That came at a total cost of about $7.9 million. There were also some new positions that administration brought forward. There were 12 new positions, 4 of which had no impact on the budget because they result in reductions in other contracted services that add about another $540,000. So that explains the increase you see here from our last meeting. Just to refresh everybody's memory as to what is in the general fund budget and how we built it, we do estimate that enrollment will be 63,280 students next year. That's a slight drop, about 125 students less than our official enrollment this year. And then again, the 2% raise proposed for all employees other than auxiliaries, and with a 4.66% raise on midpoint proposed for auxiliary workers. There are a total of 136 new positions in the budget, the vast majority of which came out of the staffing process and opening 2 new elementary schools and direction we received from the budget or from the board in March to add 27 new gifted and talented teacher positions. So again, 27 teachers for the Gifted and Talented program. The 43.5 positions for the 2 new elementary schools, that's Peach and McNutt. Again, that's mostly office staff and custodial staff, librarian, nurse, testing facilitators. When we redraw boundaries, we move teachers along with moving kids. There are several teachers in the mix here for the rotation classes at each of the school, PE, art, and music, that are unique to each school. But the vast majority of that is non-teaching staff. The multipurpose activity center positions of 6, those are custodians that are added to maintain the weight rooms and the training areas in the locker rooms. And the STEM lab managers are born out of the bond program. As we have our elementary schools, as we add STEM labs out our elementary schools throughout the year, as those begin to come online, we'll add the STEM lab managers for those schools. The campus staffing changes, this happened through the staffing process. There were a total of 27.5 positions that came out of that. 13 of those are in special education area. And then, as I mentioned a minute ago, 12 positions that administration brought to the board at the last meeting. FFC recommendations are addressed in the budget. Competitive compensation for all employees was one of their recommendations. Then also the 4.66%, the higher raise for auxiliary employees is addressed here. Then also there was a recommendation that we expand access into venture and dropout prevention programs. That we're able to do within the budget we already had with no additional financial impact on the budget. Dr. Wirtz and his team are working on that now. And then educating our legislators, as we heard a speaker mention even earlier, about the escalating costs of the employee health insurance plans, and to explore possibility of allowing school districts to opt out of the TRS active care plan. the last meeting, we also touched on a proposed teacher salary range. The range that we are recommending has a beginning salary of $51,500, and then would have midpoint 61.5 and a maximum 71.5. We've added a column here to show what the current market is, so that you can see how our salary schedule compares to market. Typically, you have about an 18% range on either side of market pay for a pay range. So this pay range is very favorable to our market, and it's one that, again, that we are proposing to adopt. This particular slide and the next one show a comparison of the proposed budget to the adopted budget from the 15-16 year. You can see that our revenue is pretty flat here, and then we have increase in expenditures. The increase in expenditure is driven primarily by salary increases that total $7.8 million, and the new positions, 136 new positions, which would total $6.2 million. And let me back up here and say that, what we talk about this a lot in the last few years. We show our budget in such a way that we focus first on the operating piece of the budget. For the last few years, we have made some decisions to pull some surplus money out of fund balance. First, to build Patrick Elementary School several years ago. That construction work took place literally over three fiscal years. And now then the board has approved and committed funding of $17.1 million for an expansion at Sam Houston High School. So we like to focus on the budget and show the operating piece separate from the money we're pulling out of fund balance. Ultimately, when you take the $14.1 million or $14.1 million deficit and pull out another $17.1 million out of fund balance, we will wind up showing, bottom line on the budget, will show a $31.2 million deficit, but 17.1 of that is a conscious decision we've made to take money out of our surplus fund balance for the expansion at Sam Houston. On health insurance, as the speaker mentioned earlier, the TRS board did announce rates for the 2016-17 year. The rates vary, depends on plan. The high deductible plan will have no premium increase. The other plans you see here have varying increases, and where you see the range of the 2.2 to 2.3 and then the 5.02 to 5.27, it depends on which particular plan you choose, which coverage you choose on that plan. So if you have employee only, that's would be one level of increase, employee child, employee family, employee spouse. So we just showed the range of changes for each of those broad plans. Currently, the district makes contributions. We kind of have a two-tier system. Professional employees, we contribute $225 a month, and on all other employees, we contribute $240 a month on health insurance. And I'm going to refer to this as our base contribution. You'll see on the next slide that there's an opportunity for employees to recognize some additional contribution each month. We are proposing an increase of $10 a month. So that would bring the base contribution to $235 a month for professional employees and $250 a month for all other employees. We implemented a wellness plan a couple of years ago, and so if you are on the wellness plan, you will receive an additional $20 towards health insurance each month. We're seeing participation increase in our wellness plan this year. I think there were about 130 more people on the plan this year than there were last year. And so if you were in the wellness plan, and if we increase the contribution, as we mentioned just a minute ago, then the current amount that would be contributed toward your health insurance if you're a professional employee would be $255 a month, and for all other employees, $270 a month. So the cost to increase the budget or the contribution for health insurance by $10 a month is $562,356 for the general fund. This particular slide shows the budget, a very summary level of the budget, assuming that that $10 monthly increase is approved by the board. And so it would add another $560,000 to the operating deficit of the 14. That would bring it to 14.6 million. There again, you see the use of surplus fund balance for Sam Houston. So the bottom line deficit would show $31.7 million deficit, with the ending fund balance of very close to $163 million. That budget is approved, we will still have 3.5 months of operating expense in the unassigned portion of our fund balance. As we mentioned frequently, credit rating agencies want to see that a district has 2 months of operating expense in their unassigned fund balance. So we have a very healthy fund balance, even after committing money for Sam Houston and after adopting the budget with the operating deficit that we were looking at. We want to see if there are any questions on the general fund before we go further, or plow through the other funds? Okay. All right, so the other funds we can go through rather quickly. The natural gas fund is where we account for the revenues that are generated from royalties earned on mineral leases that the district has. The board has taken an action some years ago to commit these funds for future special projects. So what we have not identified for this upcoming year, special projects. So what you'll see in this budget is primarily revenue with a small amount for any legal expenses we might incur. The budget can be amended at any point through any board action. So the budget that we're looking at would have a revenue source of approximately $1 million and about $75,000 in expenses. So we would budget a surplus of $900,000 with an ending fund balance projected at June of 2017 of approximately $30.3 million. I will point out that as production has decreased in the Barnett Shale and as natural gas prices have decreased, that's why you will see that we're budgeting a lesser revenue number than this past year. On debt service, this is the fund where we account for revenues to pay the principal and interest that is due in the upcoming year. So we levy a debt service tax, we collect the revenue, it goes into this specific fund, and then when we pay the principal and interest during the year, we expense it out of this fund. That's the only thing we do with this particular money. So the budget that we're proposing already takes into account the bond sales that we talked about earlier. We worked with First Southwest. We modeled what those might look like. We made estimates of what we thought tax rates were going to, or interest rates would be. And so we've already built that into this proposed budget. It also reflects the fact that we are refunding several issues of bonds. So we've taken those savings into account here. The proposed tax rate, again, is 35.86 cents. We'll actually adopt a rate in August once we know what our certified values are. And again, that rate is 1.4 cents less than last year. We are estimating that our property values will actually increase about 5.5% this year. It's possible that when we get our certified values that our values are higher than what we have projected, in which case we may still be able to tweak that tax rate down just a little bit further. We can only adopt the tax rate that exactly generates or is intended to generate the funds for the principal and interest due in that upcoming year. So that's all we provide for is principal and interest in just that 1 year. So again, all these presentations on budget are very summarized. It makes it a little easier to kind of digest, and so they're all presented in millions. This particular worksheet shows that our revenues and other sources of income, $152.7 million, and that includes the funds that we will generate by those refunding issues. So we will issue bonds to pay off existing bonds. So there's about $69 million that we will generate through these refunding sales that go directly into the debt service fund, and then we turn around and we immediately pay it off. So that's part of what you see on both. They're equal amounts on the revenue side and the expenditure side to refund bonds. You'll see that there is a surplus listed here, and our budget year and our tax year don't exactly match up. So the tax year, the tax collections will levy a tax that will be collected and cover the period from October 1st through the following September. Our fiscal year starts July, runs through June. We have a bond payment every year in August. So when we set our tax rate for this year, we are also collecting the tax for that August 17 payment. So that's why you see a surplus here. We'll collect the tax for that August 17 payment. It goes into fund balance. When we get to August, that following August, you pull it right back out and pay that particular bond issue. On the construction fund, this is where we account for proceeds of our bond sales, also TIF rebates, and any other local construction funds. If we were to sell land, we put proceeds there, and any interest that we earn on these funds. So we have, again, we sold bonds earlier this evening, and that will be to fund projects that have already been identified in the bond program, including work will continue on the 2 elementary schools that will open in August. We sold those bonds already, and we will not be finished with the construction June 30th, so the funds we haven't spent from those projects go to the construction fund balance, and we will finish spending those in the new year. Same thing with the Workman Classroom Addition and the Multipurpose Activity Centers and the Career Tech Center. We've already sold bonds previously for those projects, and so they will not be complete June 30th. The dollars that we've sold previously are still sitting in the fund balance and will be spent in the early part of next year on those projects. In terms of the Fine Arts Center, there's funding here to begin the design work on the Fine Arts Center. There's also funding here for to finish out the renovations on the 2 dual language fine arts academies and junior high school special ed alternative curriculum classroom addition that has been approved already for Bowles Junior High. And then condition improvements at 51 campuses. Also in the budget is money that we are taking out of local construction to do some upgrades at the Enterprise Center building that we own, office building that we own, to replace the roof and air handling equipment in that building. And then also to begin design work and planning around a possible future addition for Jones Academy to make sure that we have plenty of classrooms in that facility for our Fine Arts Dual Language program for years to come. Also out of the bond, but in other areas, technology, fine arts, and transportation, we continue our work there. Technology, we have wireless enhancements, we have additional mobile devices, we have digital signage throughout many of our schools, a virtual desktop implementation, PA system replacements. In the fine arts area, instruments and uniforms on a scheduled basis. In transportation, we plan to purchase 19 buses in this upcoming year, and also 25 white fleet vehicles, which will serve maintenance, security, and other departments that have vehicles. So again, the summary budget here, you can see the revenues coming in as a combination of the bonds that we will sell that the board approved this evening. plus interest earnings and some other miscellaneous revenues. The expenditures include spending those dollars plus funds that we had already sold in previous year. Again, as I mentioned, we've already had 2 bond sales on this particular bond program. Those proceeds we already have. They close out the fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. Those projects tend to cross fiscal year, so we just continue expending out of that one big pot of money. On the food service enterprise fund, we've seen for the last several years that we've been required by the federal government to increase our full price lunches by 10 cents a year. That's because of a provision within the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act that was enacted several years ago that requires or basically says that the federal reimbursement we receive for free and reduced lunches cannot subsidize paid meals. And so there's a formula you go through each year, and if you are, if your paid meal price, your full price meal, is priced at an amount less than the federal reimbursement that we're receiving for free meals, then we are required to increase our price on that paid meal by 10 cents a year until you finally catch up with that federal reimbursement on the free meals. Given the increases we typically get from one year to the next on our free reimbursements, it's likely that we will not catch up with that rate with our 10 cent a year increase. So 10 cents a year is going to be a norm until if and when that law changes. That provision does not impact pricing on reduced price meals, nor does it impact breakfast prices. So we always build into the food service budget the same things that decisions that are made regarding the general fund in terms of raises and compensation, so including health insurance. We've built that into the budget as well. And you'll see that in just a moment. There are 18 new positions in the proposed budget for food service, again to service both Peach and McNutt. And then there's 1 technology specialist. The food service department maintains and services all its own technology, and they have a very elaborate system throughout the district for everything from inventory management, personnel management, and certainly their inventory system and point of sale system. So we have 1 technology person now and feel very strongly that we need a second person to help share that load. We have already built in here as a proposal the $10 per month increase in health insurance. There are about 160 people in the food service department that participate in our health insurance plan. So based on that participation, the cost to the health insurance fund of that increase is $18,745. This chart shows a history of our meals, meal service. And we serve over 10 million meals a year. And so that is amazing when you think of that. And that's a combination of breakfast and lunch prices, or lunch meals. In terms of the budget, again, we are actually estimating that they will be balanced. If you look on your detailed report that we distributed to you earlier this evening, you'll see there's actually a very, very small surplus there, about $3,500. But when we round to millions, that rounds to a 0 there. So it's a balanced budget, and they have a very healthy fund equity. This particular slide is a summary showing each of the funds, and it has the budgets as we discussed at the last meeting with the changes that the board directed us to build into the budget. And we have already included in here for this presentation purpose a $10 per month increase on health insurance. So again, this is a discussion action item this evening. We are presenting the budget as a proposed budget. The board can discuss it, make some final amendments to it if necessary, and then adopt the budget, consider the budget for adoption this evening. And but we have to adopt it by June 30th. And then one more time, we'll actually adopt the tax rate in August after we get our certified values. So with that, we'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Ms. Powell, thank you for this presentation this evening. Mr. Hibbs is first.
Thank you, President Sullins. Real quickly, Ms. Powell, so $14.6 million is the deficit number that we're talking about with the raises. Was that, and that also inclusive of the $10 for
Yes,
healthcare?
it does.
So what you're showing us right here would be the proposed budget with the healthcare
Yes.
contribution enclosed. I should read the small print, right? Okay. Under the healthcare plans, I just want to make sure that we review that real quick. The choice one, which is the high deductible, that was one that had no change in the cost, and over half of our enrollees are in that plan.
It's right at 1/2 of them.
And then the second was choice two. The smallest is Scott and White, just so people might know that plan. And Mr. Hogg is a real fan of it, but it has less than 160 employees in it, or
Correct. Right.
enrollees in it, and it's just not a very good plan overall. So
It's not very user-friendly.
user-friendly. So in that case, we did talk about this in the Finance and Accountability. It was the recommendation of the administration that we should look towards bringing forth the proposal of the $10 a month additional for employees' health insurance. One of the things that from the Affordable Health Care Act is that we have to make sure that we always meet the minimum of offering a low-cost, affordable option for our employees. We're still doing that, but with us, if we were not to make a contribution and those rates went up next year, in double-digit numbers, as we thought that they might this year, that could actually drop us out of it and have to play catch-up. One of the things that we do offer is the option of a wellness program. And the board made that choice a year or 2 years ago to go with an additional $20. And there is some discussion whether or not that can actually go towards getting us to that minimum option. I think since it's something that a person has to opt into, it doesn't allow us to have that option. Over the course of this next year, we may want to revisit the wellness program. I'm all for keeping the wellness program in place, but with this $10 increase, just like our raise is going to be, it's going to be offering something that's going to be continually building in our budget. It's not a one-time cost, it's a recurring cost. I don't want to speak for the other two members, but I do want to commend them because they worked very diligently on this, in Ms. Walton and Mr. Hogg, and I think we were all in agreement that that if we could provide this at this time, the additional $10 a month in healthcare costs, it would be the right thing to be doing for our employees. I like the proposed budget. I believe that this is the direction that we should go in, and I'm interested in hearing from my colleagues.
Ms. Walton?
Thank you, Ms. Sullins. Thank you, Ms. Powell, so much. And all of your staff. I know y'all have worked endless hours to get this to this point, and it's certainly up to your excellent standards that we've seen year after year, and I appreciate that. I just had one question. I really don't have any problem with the budget. Under the food services enterprise fund, we're indicating 17 more cafeteria workers for 2 schools.
We have to operate a kitchen at each school, and
Right.
so this is the manager and the specialist at each of those schools.
Okay, I guess since I've left teaching, yeah, or maybe these are bigger schools than where I was, but, you know, it seemed that those were like 5 or 6 people, and this is like 8 and 9.
Yes, and so again, you know, these schools are planned for capacity of 900.
Okay.
And Mrs. Anderson and her staff do an excellent job of, and they talk about it in terms of hands, how many hands we need at one time to prepare. And they balance their staffing needs across the district. You know, they do have to be very careful and make their own way, if you will, with their budget, because the general fund does not subsidize that at all. They do an excellent job of determining the number of staff that they need for the participation, and then moving people if necessary to adjust to actual participation numbers once school gets started, and they do that throughout the year.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you, Ms. Walton. Mr. Hogg?
Thank you, President Solons. And Ms. Walton, to follow up on that question, Ms. Powell, does that number of meal serves also include our summer feedings?
No.
So that doesn't include our summer feedings?
No, the summer feeding is separate, and we do get separate grant funding for that, separate reimbursement. I will tell you that typically we do make a small profit on the summer feeding program, and the federal
That all
grant
goes back into the enterprise
guidelines
fund?
lets us keep that and put that back into the enterprise fund.
And bravo to Jackie and our entire team for keeping that in our district, and before any of us were on this board, of managing that and creating it as an enterprise fund. You look at many of our colleague districts around this area, and they are taking money from the general fund to fund feeding in the food enterprise fund program that we have. And so I commend this board, and I commend our leadership from you, Ms. Powell, you, Dr. Cavazos, and Jackie especially for the work that she does for that program. And also bravo for the summer program. I know there was just an article out on PBS about all the awesome things that we're feeding, and we're increasing our summer feedings, because as much as people don't like to address it, we have many kids that, because they're not in school in the summer, they do go hungry.
You're right.
So it is a bravo to our team for doing that. Ms. Powell, and we heard a speaker talk earlier, and I think he was nicer than he needed to be about our insurance. We are at, a lot of times you talk about livable wages, and we are at unlivable wages with our health insurance right now. In the last Finance and Accountability Committee, I think we had the discussion, I think we were doing ourselves a disservice by not showing what we're contributing on that wellness program. That's a big number, $20 a month, and that puts us above many of our colleague districts around this area for what we're contributing to that. So in my opinion, our wellness program is very easy to get your $20 a month. We have 60% almost enrollment in that wellness program, which is a huge number. I work in this industry, I see clients all the time, and we see their wellness numbers, and we're like, most people aren't achieving those type of numbers. So bravo to our for funding that. But Ms. Powell, I think as we get to that, we are still at embarrassing numbers on our insurance. And as the speaker said earlier, it is a lot coming from the state, and I commend our board for making contributions to try and stay caught up. Not that it's going to affect the budget, but I would ask the staff for in the future to get what ERS has contributed and how much they've increased their payments over the last 5 years, and then what the payment contributions in the state have been from the state of Texas for our teachers over the last 5 years, because I think ours hasn't gone up from $225 at all as the contribution of what the state contributes. They push it to the local districts to make that, but they keep covering the premium increase for the ERS of Texas. So I think I would just ask for that contribution and those numbers, so as a board we can evaluate. No hurry, no anytime, but I think for the fall we're going to need that in some discussions that are coming up in this budget. I think this is a strong budget. As we laid to rest a friend, Larry Shaw, what a nice day, what a nice time to push a budget with increases that are required. I think as we looked at that 4.66 for our auxiliary employees, that's a tough number for us all to take. It was a big budget number. It's a budget number that saves us money as we go. The money we're losing on turnover, on safety, on those type of things, we must have. And it's costing, if we could go through and calculate a full number of Shaquille and his staff of what it's taking us to recruit, to train employees for those positions, I think we'd see it's a very worthy investment for our staff. So I commend Ms. Powell and the budget. I'm comfortable with where we are on the budget currently. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sullins. I couldn't agree more with my colleague. I thank you so much for all the work that you and your staff put into this. Thank you to this board for the work and for the commitment, along with our strategic plan, along with the bond implementation. We knew we were going to have these increased fixed costs, recurring costs, and it's a little bit tough to look at these numbers, but I'm proud that we all stand together on this moving forward for the betterment of our community. I, too, am very comfortable with this budget. This is a discussion and action item, and I don't know if it's premature or not, but I would move that we approve this budget as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Dr. Reich and a second by Mr. Hibbs. I would like to add to your discussion about ERS, TRS, that is something that we do need to look at going forward because it paints a very clear picture on the state of medical care access between some state employees and others. And so I appreciate you bringing that up and encourage that we look at that in the fall in our governance subcommittees and everywhere else. So with that, we have a motion and a second, and Ms. Powell has.
Yeah, I have just one other comment just to wrap this up too. You know, we do 4-year forecasting, and so we will bring that to the board once we have our certified property values, and that will be in August, early September is when we'll have that for us.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Powell. Seeing no further light, and after many hours of budget preparation, budget work, thank you very much to the Finance Department for all the work that you have done. And seeing no other questions and all the hours that the board has put in as well, it's time to vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Congratulations on a new budget for the school year. We appreciate your work, Ms. Powell and Dr. Cavazos and the entire team. Our next item is a discussion action item D. Consider board policy DNA local and performance appraisal evaluation of teachers and D&B local performance appraisal evaluation of principals. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Sullins. And tonight we bring forward 2 local policies that address our evaluation and appraisal system, and they are related to T-TEST and T-PES. And the board has had an opportunity to have a lot of discussion about this throughout the spring semester as we were presenting information about this. And tonight we bring forward the policies so that we can continue our work in terms of implementation. Mr. Hill.
Okay. So good evening again, President Sullins, Board, and Dr. Cavazos. We are here to again discuss and potentially recommend for approval DNA and DMB local for performance evaluations. Again, on March 23rd, you had a very extensive presentation on the T-TEST policy evaluation and then entire overview. April 21st was followed with the T-PES, one for the administrators of the principals. You have a more readable version of this in your packet, not edible, eligible, legible is what I was trying to say, but anyway. We're not eating it. Don't eat the paper. Save that for the goats. But here is DNA local, and it spells out what the policy is. Again, we work through the governance committee, and we work with TASB as well to get a lot of input on this. Area superintendents and some of the other staff from HR who's here to help. and from teaching and learning or professional development are as well, have weighed in on this policy. Again, the DNB, again, that's the one for the administrator, the principals and other professional staff. It's a little bit more narrowed in scope. But again, both have been viewed and vetted by TASB and our own legal team. So our recommendation is for you to approve the policies as they have been presented to you tonight and throughout the committee, both DNA and DNB local. And we'll entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. This evening, we have a discussion action, so we can take action on these policies. That was, Mr. Hawk?
Yeah, thank you, President Solons. As part of the governance committee, I thank my colleagues, Ms. Mays and Ms. Hudson, for the work on this, and Mr. Hill, thank you for all the work on this policy. As you'll see on these two policies, these are policies, especially the first one for TTAS. It's a transition policy, and so it is written in knowing that we are going to have to amend that policy in approximately 3 years. So it is allowing us to create evaluations, but not requiring all teachers to have annual evaluation, the full change in the first year. So it's about a 3-year transition. Mr. Hill's already assured us that TASB's already put a little ticker in their calendar to notify us, because I think we all had the concern of we got to make sure we update the policy. So it will be coming back in a couple of years, but it is a transition policy to be able to help us. And then also so it's a new performance appraisal for teachers, but there's also PES, which is a principal evaluation system, which is a new program, a new system that you'll see most of our other campus administrators and other professional employees will be staying on their current policies as we move to the future of potentially changing all of them, but it's a gradual policy, and you'll see that written in both of the policies, building us towards that. With that, if there's no further discussions, I move for approval as recommended by administration of these policies.
Thank you, Mr. Hogg.
I second.
Okay, had a motion by Mr. Hogg and a second by Ms. Hudson. Okay, any further discussion? I'd like to say thank you for your presentation as well. I am particularly pleased that we brought forth the teacher and the principal evaluation systems together so that we could look at the entire system together and in balance, and I appreciate that. Seeing no further discussion, please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Thank you very much, Mr. Hill. Next on the agenda is items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda. Are there any items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda? Tonight, we are considering items listed on your agenda under consent items. Ms. Powell?
President Solons, board members, Dr. Cavazos, on our consent agenda this evening, we have an item
Did I miss non-agenda?
defining and detailing all of the donations for this time period since our last meeting. So our donations this evening total $125,120. That brings our year-to-date total to $1,148,012. We also have 9 bids on the agenda, and in each case, we're recommending the lowest bids and the bids that represent the best value to the district.
Thank you, Ms. Powell. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mr. Hibbs and a second by Ms. Walton. Any discussion? Please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. Thank you so much, Ms. Powell. Now we come to our open forum for non-agenda items. This second open forum segment of the meeting provides citizens with an opportunity to address the trustees on any subject except personnel. This is not intended to be a discussion or debate, and trustees will not reply to speakers. Derogatory comments aimed at an individual will not be tolerated. I have one card from the audience. When your name is called, please step to the podium. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. A lighted timer on the podium will assist you in pacing your presentation. A yellow light will illuminate when there is 1 minute left for you to complete your presentation. When the red light comes on and the buzzer sound, please end your presentation. I have one card this evening from Mr. Luis C. Castillo.
Good evening, Board President Solons, Dr. Cossos, esteemed board members. My name is Luis C. Castillo, and I represent Arlington LULAC Council 22320. I'm here to speak again about something that's rather unpopular, and I take no pleasure in speaking about, but you know, there's some things that this board, this district has done that prompts these questions to be asked. And I want to talk about race, specifically about white race. And if some of you feel uncomfortable, then you may leave the room. But the reality is that there's too much white in this school district. And the question is why? Why doesn't the school district reflect the demographics of the student population? You know, I think that as a heads up, it's rather unfortunate that my comments here, that I come here and talk about race in the eyes of some board members makes me a racist because I'm bringing these issues up. And, you know, I totally disagree with that. My commentaries on race is as a reaction to board practices or policies or the school districts. I'm reacting to something that the board did or the district's doing. But if that makes me a racist in your eyes, so be it. But it's rather unfortunate that the whole board takes a hit on this, even though I do sincerely believe that there's a couple of board members that have more humanly compassionate view on this issue. But given that the board is the board, you know, everybody takes a hit. But as a heads up, we're going to, and I say we because Arlington LULAC, some regional community Hispanic leaders, some state leaders, and I'm going to try and get some national leaders. We're going to extend an invitation to the school district that we need to sit down and have an open and honest discussion on race. It's a discussion that should have been taken care of a long time ago, and for some reason it never did. Even though it was raised on a couple of board meetings, and it was just being brushed aside. But I think we need to have the conversation about race, why some things are the way they are. You know, and as uncomfortable as it may seem, you know, I think we just need to be honest about it. You know, why is the school district so white? Why has the district built a wall preventing Hispanic employment opportunities? You know, why is it apparent systemic bias against Latinos? You know, and there's a whole list of questions that put together that I want to bring forth to the meeting, hopefully in the near future, if the board or the school district accepts. But it's not going to be just me. I'm going to solicit help from Dallas, Fort Worth, from the state level, and we leaders asking the school district to let's sit down and have this open conversation on race. Because I think it's been going too long. As I said at the June 9th meeting of the board, you know, that the hiring practices since the current superintendent came on board, it's unbelievable. You know, whites are 8 times more likely to be hired than Hispanics. You know, I want to know why. I mean, it's by design or by intent. You know, but we can't be out here making assumptions if we don't have the open and honest conversation. We need to sit down and get to the bottom of this. You know, I don't shy away from speaking about race. And at the national level, you know, race has become an issue, you know, with some political candidates, and it kind of trickles down to the local level. But I giving you all a heads up that in the near future, there'll be an invitation to the school district, to the school board, that we need to sit down and have a discussion on race, whether you want to set up a committee or something, or you can just decline or ignore it. It's your prerogative. But I think it'll be helpful that we have the discussion. This concludes this commentary now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Now we move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Cavazos?
No report tonight.
School board members with reports. We're on a roll. Mr. Secretary, do we have any items to consider? Oh.
No.
And we do have a school board member report. Ms. Mays?
Thank you. I just wanted to talk about our SLI training that we had, and just say, as an elected official for the School District of Arlington, I'm very proud and humbled, as I know I'm speaking for my colleagues, to be able to go and receive training to make sure that we come back and that we are doing the best we can to our ability to make sure that we continue to train ourselves and make sure that we understand exactly what's going on within our district and how to continue to empower our teachers, to empower our students, and do the best for everyone in this district, both employed and attending as students, that we can do to help make sure that everyone is successful. I had the honor to serve on the Legislative Advisory Council. Very excited about the different regions in Texas coming together, putting together a legislative agenda of things that we want to make sure are talked about and discussed, and things that we can fight for our school districts in lieu of conversations that have been had tonight at the mic, ways that we want to shoulder with each other to say, hey, you know, enough is enough. Here are some things that we need to do, and here's some ways to do that. So very proud to be able to serve on that. Also, y'all, everybody knows I love to take away quotes, and I just have to say this one at the convention that I took down that I thought was very represented our district very well, as I talk about how much I love the diversity that we have here in our district. And that saying is, diversity is being invited to the party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. Thank you.
Nice. Very nice. Thank you, Ms. Mays. I don't see any other board members with board reports. Before we proceed to our next agenda item, Mr. Hibbs.
President Sullins, you were asking me if there was anything that we need to follow up on. And Mr. Hogg, and I believe it was yourself that also asked if we could get numbers from ERS contributions for the state insurance, and that be brought back to us at some point in the fall.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. Before we go to our next agenda item, the board will take about a 10-minute recess before we begin the hearing. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is to consider a public complaint of Helem and Noelia Perez filed under Board Policy GF Local. Consistent with Board Policy GF Local, this grievance hearing is being heard in a closed meeting unless the person being grieved requests that it be in an open meeting. Mr. Castillo, I understand that you have discussed this with Mr. Eichelbaum, and this meeting is to be a closed meeting. Is this correct?
That's affirmative.
Great, thank you. Then at this time, under Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.074, and 551.082, we will go into closed meeting at this time. The time is 10:03 p.m. We are back in open session. The time is 10:35.
President Solons, I have a motion. I move to affirm the Level 3 decision.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Hudson and a second by Mr. Hibbs. Any discussion? If I may, I would like to point out the board takes grievance and parents' rights very seriously. We want to make it clear that the board does not permit retaliation, and we protect all persons' rights, including our employees. We're starting a new year, and we hope that you will start the new year off fresh and be open to working together. We have a motion and we have a second. Please vote. All trustees vote in the affirmative. The meeting is now closed at 10:36 p.m.